Hi, my name is Thomas and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video we're gonna be making a sled for our router to flatten boards. So if you're interested, check out the video. So the sled will be utilizing an MFT style tabletop, but obviously don't worry if you don't have one. What you're gonna need is a flat surface with some holes in it. So the first thing we're gonna need, obviously, the side supports, and for that I'm just using these boards, and the dimensions of those are 70mm by 45mm. The length of them depends on your table. Mine is 177 centimeters, and that's the length of these two boards. The next thing that we're gonna need is a threaded rod. This is 20mm. That will exactly fit the dock holes I've actually got in my workbench. Again, if you don't have an MFT style tabletop and you're just making your own, the rod needs to fit whatever holes you're gonna make, but I wouldn't go with anything thinner than 15mm, as that may not give enough security and stability for this project. So that's the basic things that we're gonna need for our runners for our base. After that, we'll take care of the sled for the router. So the first step is actually to pre-drill some holes in the boards that we've got. I'm going to be using my snippet to do that. It's 22mm, just to allow for the threaded rod to get in with ease, as we will be securing it correctly later on, so there won't be any wobble, any movement at all, but you'll see that in just a few minutes. I'm actually going to be making the hole wider with the snippet, just to give that a little bit of flexibility and ease of use, so I don't have to worry about making sure that the rod is exactly in the same place as the dock hole on my tabletop. I think that's just the easiest way to do it. And the next step is to cut the threaded rod to the correct sizes. In my case is 11 centimeters. Okay, so as you can see, we've done the slots, and how are we gonna secure the runners to our MFT style tabletop. Obviously we've got the threaded rod. On top of it, we're just gonna put a larger nut that will fit 20mm rod, like so. And to secure the threaded rod, I'm actually going to be using these threaded rod connectors. This one is 6 centimeters in length. And why these? Because I won't need to use any tools. I can use my grip to secure it correctly, and it gives me a large grip, a large surface to actually grab and secure it, so I don't have to use any tools. But you know, this is what I'm using. You can use whatever you've got, and obviously the threaded rod doesn't have to be as thick. It can be something else, especially when you don't actually have a MFT style tabletop. But have a look, it's that simple process. So you have to make sure that the base that you're putting the runners on is absolutely flat and true. In my case, I spend extra effort to make my bench, hence the runners will be absolutely fine. So you may ask, what are the advantages of doing the runners in this way? Sometimes you're going to be doing pieces that are thicker, and sometimes pieces that are thinner. And thanks to this setup, thanks to the threaded rod, you can actually take the fence higher if you've got a thicker piece. And it's a simple thing. You can actually put the nut, another nut between the tabletop and the runner itself. If you do have a very large MFT table, and the runner will be quite longer than I've got, maybe about 2 meters. I would suggest making another support somewhere in the middle of it, just to make sure the piece of timber you're going to be doing will not bow in any of the directions, especially when putting pressure on it when the router would be running on it. That's very important, because then you just have to spend additional time on sanding. Right, and so it's time to do the sled for the router. For that I'm just going to be using this 18mm plywood. And this project I'm actually going to be using the 2020 aluminium profile, the extrusion profile. As you can see, it looks like that. Why particularly this one? I had 2 lying about in my garage, so I didn't have a clue what to do with it, and this popped to mind. Secondly, when you're doing your sleds for the router, what you want to avoid is the router to doing a bow. So if you are using a sled that's made from plywood or hardwood, anything else, over time it may actually sog a little bit and not be straight, especially when your sled is actually quite wide, and that may have some issues with it. Whereas with aluminium profile like this is not going anywhere, it will not be bending at all, hence that's what I'm going to be using. So the first thing we need to sort out is the plywood base. I'm just using my miter, so as you can see, to cut it to the right sizes. As you notice with this sled, it is very flexible and it's quite easy to adjust if you need it bigger or smaller, depending on the size of your MFT table. And you can also make the base for the runners not actually having to have MFT style tabletop. You just basically need 4 holes to accommodate the locking mechanism for the runners. In the base on the sides, to attach everything in, I'm just going to be using a furniture hex drive head nuts. And now we're making the stops from each end. Just a simple construction, piece of plywood on each end with again some bolts. I hope you don't mind, guys. I just want to thank you, my Patreons that are supporting me directly through Patreon. Here are their names. Thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for supporting me, my channel, and what I do. It really means a lot to me. If you want to become my patron and support my channel and help me with creating basically new content for you, you can also head into the Patreon account that I've got and support me directly through that. I will leave a link down below in the description of this video and in the first pinned comment. If you decide to do that, thank you very much. It really helps a lot. $2 a month for you, maybe not a lot, but for me it actually is a lot, and it helps me to buy the materials, the tools and everything else, and obviously pay for the electricity, especially in the winter times when it's really cold in here. But let's carry on with the project. Right, and the stoppers for the ends of the sled are absolutely that simple. As you've seen, we cut that piece of plywood, in this case it's 18mm. As you can see, I've threaded the bolts through there, a washer and a nut on the other side, and you just slide it in. Really simple. Now from this side, from one of the sides, you just leave it at the end and you don't have to move it ever. And the other side, it needs to be adjusted to the size of your runners. Okay, so the sled works perfectly. Let's put everything together and give it a spin. So for the trial piece for this jig, I'm going to be using this beautiful slice of wood I've got here to plane it down, level it out, and obviously there will be a project coming out using them. So if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing, because there's another project coming out with these beauties. So as you can see, I've actually put 2 pieces of laminated boards just to lift the main piece a little bit, as it's too thin for the main jig. But that's the solution, that's how you can sort it out. Now the way I'm going to actually secure this slice onto the base is just using hot glue. I'm also going to put some shims around it just to make sure I've got a nice and stable working surface. Okay, so you've seen it in action. It works really well. There's no issues with it whatsoever, which is always good. The plus sides of it is easy adjustable, so the height of the runners, you can adjust them to whatever piece of timber you've got. Obviously, if the timber is fairly thin, you can put a board underneath it and it will work just fine as well. And another plus side of it, you don't really have to have a dedicated workbench for this. So I'll take it off, store it upstairs. It's 2 boards and a sled for the router will take no space whatsoever, and setting it up doesn't take much time either. So for my needs it's absolutely perfect, and I do have few projects and I'm actually going to be using this. So for me it's a win-win situation. I hope you got inspired by this project, and maybe something similar would be suitable for your workshop as well. But for today guys, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, drop me that like button down below. Any questions, you know where the comment section is. And again, if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. It does help a lot. But for now guys, that's all. I hope to see you on my next woodworking adventure. Till then, take care.